Have you ever let one moment of anger ruin your entire day? One insult, one careless comment, and suddenly your peace is gone. You're hijacked by emotion, thrown off course, saying things you later regret. Why does it feel like we lose control so easily when anger strikes? And, more importantly, how do we take that control back? The Stoics believed that the real battlefield is not out there. It's within. Your mind, not the people around you, not the chaos of the world, is where true power is forged. They didn't teach suppression. They taught discipline. They didn't praise reaction. They honored restraint. In this video, you'll learn how to stop letting anger win, not by pretending it isn't there, but by mastering the habit of calm, because the man who can stay still in the storm commands the storm, and that kind of strength changes everything. 1. Let go of what doesn't serve you. You had a plan. Wake up early. Get to the gym. Handle your tasks. Stay ahead of the day. But then life interrupts. Traffic snarls. A meeting gets cancelled. Your boss piles on last-minute demands. And suddenly, the frustration builds. The tight chest, the grinding jaw, that quiet voice in your head saying, "This isn't how it was supposed to go." That's the root of the tension, not the event itself, but your resistance to it. The Stoics understood this deeply. You're not suffering because things changed. You're suffering because you believed they wouldn't. But life never promised you comfort. It never promised predictability. What it promised, what it guarantees, is challenge. And the man who depends on everything going right to stay calm is the man who will always be at war. Control doesn't mean forcing things to go your way. It means adapting when they don't. Real strength isn't the power to make the world obey. It's the discipline to remain centered when the world does not. So, when the unexpected strikes, you have a choice. You can fight the tide, or you can adjust your sails. That doesn't mean you become passive. It means you become precise. You focus only on what's in your control, and you release everything else. Imagine this. You're in a parking lot. A stranger backs into your car and shrugs like it's nothing. Your blood starts to boil. The urge to rage, to demand, to explode is right there. But then you pause. You ask yourself, will getting angry fix the dent? Will it make him care more? Or am I just giving him more than he's already taken? And in that moment, you decide. You handle the paperwork. You speak with clarity. And you protect your energy. That's not giving up. That's taking control. Because you didn't let someone's carelessness write the story of your day. You wrote it. With composure. With authority. The Stoics practiced this every day. They didn't waste effort on what was already lost. They didn't cling to plans that had unraveled. They moved with the current, but kept their mind anchored. They asked one question in every disruption: is this within my control? And if the answer was no, they let it go. Not out of weakness, but out of strength. Because every ounce of attention spent on what you can't control is energy taken from what you can. You must learn to see what's yours to carry and what's not. Let go of the anger over things you can't undo. Let go of the need to control what refuses to listen. Let go of the expectation that life will always respect your schedule. And when you do, something powerful happens. You free your mind, you clear space. And into that space, you can now pour your strength. This is not surrender. This is strategy. You are not abandoning the fight. You are choosing the right battlefield. because the man who knows what to release and what to hold doesn't drown in the storm. He walks through it calm, alert, unshaken. And that man is not at the mercy of the world. He leads himself through it, one choice at a time. 2. Reframe emotional outbursts as habits you can unlearn. You weren't born with a temper. You weren't born slamming doors, barking back at disrespect, or letting small frustrations steal your peace. Those reactions, what now feel instinctive, were built layer by layer, shaped by years of pressure, pride, and misunderstanding, conditioned by a world that told you that to be a man is to fight back, to raise your voice, to never back down. But the truth is clearer and more powerful. These emotional outbursts are not part of your identity. They are habits, repetitions of behavior reinforced by unchecked emotion. And habits, no matter how deeply ingrained, can be broken. The Stoics saw anger not as something noble, but as a symptom of something untrained. They didn't see rage as masculine, or reaction as strength. They saw it for what it was, a failure of discipline, a lapse in self-command. To them, anger was never the enemy, it was the signal. A flashing light reminding you that something inside has slipped out of your control. Epictetus said, "Any person capable of anger is a slave to it." That might sound harsh, but if you've ever said something in anger that you later regretted, if you've ever ruined a relationship, a moment, or your own peace because you reacted too quickly, then you know it's true. Because in those moments, you were not free. You were ruled. Imagine standing in traffic. Someone cuts you off, nearly hits your car. Your first instinct is rage. Your heart rate spikes. Your jaw tightens. Your mind races with everything you'd like to shout. That's the chain reaction. It feels automatic. But here's what the Stoics knew, and what most men never discover. That feeling isn't a command. It's an invitation, and you don't have to accept it. You can pause. You can breathe. You can observe what's rising inside of you without becoming it. You can make a different choice. And in that choice, you begin to reclaim your power. Because when you pause, you weaken the habit. When you act with intention, you break the pattern. And over time, what once triggered you loses its grip. That's not weakness. That's mastery. The strongest man in the room isn't the one who yells the loudest. He's the one who doesn't flinch. The one who doesn't need to prove himself. The one who can stay still in chaos because he knows exactly who he is. That kind of calm isn't passive. It's not apathy. It's built, trained, forged through repetition, just like a muscle. Every time you resist the urge to lash out, every time you choose stillness over fury, you're doing reps. You're rewiring your responses. You're becoming the man who doesn't give away his peace over something as small as a rude comment or a delayed schedule. You're becoming the man whose emotions serve him, not the other way around. So don't tell yourself, this is just who you are. Don't defend your outbursts with excuses like that's just how I was raised, or that's just how I deal with things. That story is a prison, and the door is unlocked. Walk out. Train the pause. Question the reaction. Replace the habit with a new one, a habit of calm, of strength, of stillness. Because every time you let anger win, you give away a piece of yourself. But every time you stop, breathe, and respond with discipline, you take it back. one moment at a time, one breath at a time, until one day, what used to set you off no longer moves you. And that, right there, is how you become untouchable. 3. Turn conflict into a personal test of mastery. Conflict is not the enemy. It's the proving ground. You can't escape it, not if you're alive, working, building, or engaging with other people. Someone will challenge you. Someone will test you. Someone will cross a line. And in that moment, you will feel the pull to react, to defend, to prove yourself. But what most men never realize is that conflict is not about the other person. It's about you. It's about what still controls you. What still triggers you? What part of you is still owned by ego, pride, or insecurity? The Stoics didn't run from confrontation. They met it like warriors, with discipline, with clarity, with control. They saw every insult, every pushback, every test, not as a threat, but as training. They understood that conflict doesn't diminish your power, it reveals it. Imagine you're in a store. You're waiting, your turn, and someone steps ahead of you with arrogance and noise, demanding to be served first. All eyes are on you. You feel it, the blood rushing, the jaw tightening, the urge to explode. But instead, you pause. You check in with yourself. You ask, what's really at risk here? My time, my pride, or my peace? And in that space, you choose presence. You choose power, not by clapping back, not by lowering yourself, but by staying composed. That's not weakness. That's control under pressure. That's what separates a man who is reactive from a man who is trained. The world will constantly invite you to take the bait, to fight back, to shout, to match chaos with chaos. But when you react from impulse, you give away control. You become easy to predict, easy to provoke, easy to manipulate. And the man who is easily provoked is easily defeated. But when you meet conflict with stillness, when you hold your frame, when you choose your words, instead of letting them spill out uncontrolled, you become dangerous in the best way, because no one can move you without your permission. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire. He dealt with war, betrayal, and politics. And yet, he wrote daily, reminding himself to stay grounded, to meet hostility without hostility, to turn every test into a mirror. That's what conflict is, a mirror. It shows you who you really are, where you're still fragile, where you still need to train. And if you treat it that way, if you meet it with awareness, you grow. So the next time someone disrespects you, don't ask, how do I win this? Ask, what does this reveal about me? Don't seek revenge. Seek understanding. Don't be dragged into noise. Stand firm in your silence. Because when you stay calm in the heat, when you hold your dignity while others lose theirs, you don't just win the moment, you win yourself. That's the real fight. That's the real victory. And that's what Stoicism prepares you for, not to avoid the storm, but to walk through it untouched. 4. Build calm like a muscle through daily practice. Calm is not a trait you're born with. It's not a gift handed out to the lucky few. It's a discipline, a habit, a muscle. And like any muscle, it only grows if you train it. Most men wait until chaos erupts to try and find their calm. They wait until they're disrespected, until they're overwhelmed, until they're deep in the fire. Then they try to summon control. But by then, it's too late, because emotional strength doesn't show up on command. It shows up from conditioning. The same way you can't walk into a gym and lift heavy without training. You can't expect to stay calm in pressure if you've never practiced it in peace. That's what the Stoics understood, and that's where most men fail. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your training. So what does that training look like? It's the small things. Waking up early and sitting with your thoughts. Writing down what tested you and how you responded. Practicing slow. Deep breathing when no one's watching. Choosing silence when your ego wants to strike. These aren't soft practices. They're hard. They demand consistency. They demand patience. And they demand that you get honest with yourself about where you still fall short. Imagine this. You've had a long day. You come home, and your child spills juice on your laptop. It's not the first time, and everything inside you wants to yell, but something different happens. You pose. You've trained for this. You feel the emotion rise, but you don't let it speak for you. You take a breath. You say, "Let's clean it up." And just like that, you've won a battle. A small one, but a real one. That's a rep. That's strength in action. Over time, those reps build into something powerful. They become your new baseline. Where others explode, you hold steady. Where others spiral, you stand firm. Where others get dragged by every emotion, you respond from presence. Calm stops being a goal. It becomes who you are. And here's the truth. Most men miss. You don't need a monastery or a silent retreat to train your mind. You just need intention. You train in traffic. You train in meetings. You train at the dinner table. You train every time life tests you and every time it doesn't. That's the Stoic path. To use every moment as a chance to sharpen your awareness, to deepen your control. To become the kind of man who doesn't just survive storms, but commands himself in the middle of them. So start now. Before the next argument, before the next bad day, before the next trigger, build your calm like you build your body. With effort, with repetition, with focus. Because when the chaos hits, and it will, it won't be strength you need to find. It'll be strength you've already built. And that kind of calm, no one can take from you. 5. Stay present because your imagination makes you angry. It's not what's happening that destroys your peace, it's what you think is happening. It's not the insult that cuts deep, it's the meaning you attach to it. It's not the moment that overwhelms you, it's your mind racing 10 steps ahead or spiraling 10 steps behind. That's where most suffering begins, not in the present, but in the stories your mind tells about the present. You get cut off in traffic, that's 3 seconds of inconvenience. But you carry it with you. You replay it for 30 minutes. You imagine what you should have said, what you would have done. You drag that moment into your next conversation, your next meeting, your home. And now, it's not just a delay. It's a storm you've chosen to carry. The Stoics called this the tyranny of judgment, where the mind manufactures enemies that don't exist and rehearses pain that hasn't happened. And unless you learn to break that cycle, your imagination will steal your strength. The solution is not avoidance. It's awareness. You train yourself to come back to the present. You learn to interrupt the noise. You breathe. You feel your feet on the floor. You listen to the room around you. You pay attention to your breath, not to escape, but to return. Because this moment right now is the only place your power lives. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." That wasn't a morbid thought. It was a focusing one, because when you accept that all you have is now, you stop wasting it on anxiety, on grudges, on battles that only exist in your head. Think of how often you enter a conversation already bracing for conflict. No words have been said, but your mind has already decided how the other person feels, what they'll say, what they mean. That tension, it's not from the other person, it's from your imagination. You created a future and then reacted to it. And that's the trap. That's how men stay angry, distracted, reactive, because they're living in predictions and memories instead of presence. But the man who trains his mind to return again and again, without judgment, becomes unshakable, not because the world gets quieter, but because his mind does. He sees what's real. He hears what's being said. Not what he fears is being implied. He acts from awareness, not assumption, and that is power. This is why mindfulness isn't fluff. It's armor, tactical, grounding, essential, and it doesn't require hours of silence or perfect peace. It requires a decision. The next time your mind starts spinning, pause, return, anchor yourself. You don't need to solve every problem in your head. You need to stand where your feet are, because the man who lives in the present cannot be pulled by the past or panicked by the future. He sees clearly. He responds wisely. And no matter what chaos surrounds him, he moves with precision. That man isn't overwhelmed. He's awake. He's in control. And nothing imaginary can break him. 6. Control yourself instead of trying to control others. Every man, at some point in his life, has felt that burning urge to take back control by force, to raise his voice, throw something, walk out, or throw down a challenge just to feel like he still matters. That's the illusion anger sells you. That by reacting stronger, louder, faster, you somehow regain power. But what the Stoics knew, and what few men ever master, is that this kind of power is counterfeit. It doesn't last. It doesn't elevate you. It drains you. Because control over others is never real control. It's temporary. It's shallow. And it leaves you dependent on their behavior just to feel okay. Real control starts within. You don't have to control the room to prove your strength. You only have to control your breath, your face, your tone, your response. That's the ground where true dominance is built, not by bending others, but by refusing to bend yourself. Marcus Aurelius didn't talk about forcing outcomes. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Read that again. Strength isn't found in micromanaging people or manipulating situations. It's found in restraint, in clarity, in the unwavering decision to remain calm in the fire. Imagine this. You're being criticized in front of a room full of people. Your instincts scream to defend, to push back, to sting with something sharper. But in that moment, you remember your training. You breathe. You hold your posture. You listen, not because you agree, but because you refuse to lose yourself just to win a moment. You nod and say, "I'll give that some thought." You move forward. Later, you address the truth in private, from a place of logic, not ego. And in doing so, you kept something most men never do: your dignity. That's the paradox of power. The more you try to control others, the more you lose control of yourself. But the more you focus inward on your tone, your response, your presence, the more you naturally begin to command respect. Because people may not always agree with you. They may not like you, but they will feel your control. They will feel that you are not easily shaken, not easily baited, not easily pulled into nonsense. Most men think being unshaken means staying silent no matter what. That's not true. Stoicism doesn't mean you never speak. It means you speak with precision, with intent, with power that doesn't need to announce itself. It means you know when to engage and when to walk away. And most importantly, it means you choose. You don't let your pride make decisions for you. Think back to the last time someone disrespected you. Did yelling fix it? Did proving your point leave you at peace? Or did it leave you drained, spinning, questioning what you said, wishing you'd handled it better? You already know the answer, because that kind of reaction isn't strength, it's surrender. It's giving someone else the keys to your state of mind. Now imagine a different kind of man, a man who, when provoked, doesn't flinch, when insulted, doesn't react, when disrespected, doesn't engage unless it's necessary. That man isn't passive. He's precise. He's deliberate, because he knows the fight isn't out there. The real battle is within, and winning it requires discipline, not volume, stillness, not rage. You don't train for that kind of power by waiting for a crisis. You build it in the small moments. When you choose to hold your tongue, when you choose to respond with a steady voice, when you choose to pause instead of pounce, those are the reps. That's the training. So next time you're pushed by a stranger, a boss, a loved one, don't try to control them. Don't try to win the moment. Win yourself. That's what the Stoics did. Not just because it looked noble, but because it worked. Because the man who governs himself can never be governed by someone else. And that, in the end, is the only control that truly matters. 7. Pause before you react. It changes everything. Most men live in reaction mode. Something happens, a sharp tone, a disrespectful glance, a sudden inconvenience, and their instincts take over. They speak before thinking. They move before assessing. They fight before understanding. And in that instant, they give away their power. Their words become weapons, not tools. Their presence becomes noise, not influence. And later, when the fire dies down, they're left with the cost-burned bridges, fractured respect, and the quiet sting of knowing they could have handled it better. That's why the pause is not just a suggestion, it's a discipline. It's the dividing line between the man who is ruled by emotion and the man who rules himself. The Stoics called it the gap, the sacred space between stimulus and response. It's small, but it's everything. Because in that moment, you have a choice. Do you react like every untrained man who came before you? Or do you step into your higher self, the one that sees clearly, chooses wisely, and speaks only when strength, not ego, is in control? Think of the last time someone pushed your buttons. Maybe it was a stranger. Maybe it was someone close. They said something careless. You felt the fire rise in your chest. Your pride, your story, your identity, all rushing forward, ready to defend. But what if in that exact moment, you stopped, you breathed, you didn't react, You didn't clench your jaw or raise your voice. You just stood still. And in that stillness, you asked yourself, is this who I want to be? Is this worth my energy? Is this where I give my peace away? That's the practice. That's the rep. That's how you build unshakable composure, one pause at a time. It's not about never speaking. It's about speaking from the right place. When your mind is calm, when your breath is slow, when your purpose is clear. Because the man who reacts from pain causes pain. But the man who responds from peace brings direction, authority, presence. The Stoics didn't believe in apathy. They believed in clarity. They didn't tell you to stay silent forever. They taught you to be intentional with your words, your tone, your timing. Because reaction is for the untrained. Response is for the master. Now think of your relationships, your leadership, your example. Every time you pause before reacting, you show strength to the people watching, to your children, your team, your partner, your friends. You show them what discipline looks like in motion. You show them that emotion is not the driver you are. And here's the truth. You're not avoiding the fight by pausing. You're controlling the battlefield. Because when you hold the pause, you hold the high ground. You see angles others miss. You disarm chaos. You speak with weight because you don't speak often. You command without shouting. And the man who does that is unforgettable. So train the pause. Practice it daily. In traffic, in meetings, in conversations that challenge you. Let the silence settle before you fill it. Let your emotions speak. But don't obey them blindly, because every pause is a rep, and every rep makes you stronger. Not just keter but sharper, more focused, more free. And in a world of noise, that kind of presence stands out. It cuts through, it leads. The man who masters the pause doesn't just change his reactions, he changes the room. He changes his life. And that kind of mastery is the mark of a true Stoic. 8. Drop the weight of resentment before it ages you. Resentment is a silent poison. It doesn't always shout. It doesn't always rage. But it sits deep beneath the surface, rotting your peace from the inside out. You've seen it. The man who walks through life with a heavy look in his eyes. The man who flinches at kindness because he expects betrayal. The man who looks tired even when he's fully rested. That weight he's carrying, it's not physical, it's emotional. And most of it comes from holding on to anger that should have been let go long ago. But because no one taught him how to release it, he keeps dragging it into every conversation, every decision, every moment that was supposed to feel light. The Stoics understood this clearly. They didn't see forgiveness as a moral obligation. They saw it as a strategic act of self-preservation, because the longer you carry resentment, the more of your energy it steals, the more of your clarity it clouds, and the more it shapes your future with the bitterness of your past. You think you've let it go because you're not talking about it. But silence isn't healing. Just because your lips are closed doesn't mean your mind isn't replaying the betrayal, the insult. The moment you felt small or disrespected, that loop, that mental rehearsal is the problem. It keeps the wound open. It keeps the story alive. And every time you replay it, you reinforce it. The Stoic path is not about forgetting. It's about refusing to be ruled by memories that no longer serve you. It's about releasing the grip the past has on your present, not for their sake, but for yours. Because the more space resentment takes up in your mind, the less room there is for strength, for calm, for vision. Picture this. You're at work. Someone makes a slick comment. It's subtle, but you feel it. The urge rises to clap back, to carry that weight home, to let it simmer in your chest until it poisons your night. But you stop. You breathe. You smile not because it didn't matter, but because you've trained yourself to carry only what's worth carrying. You walk out, and you leave the comment behind, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough not to pick up trash that doesn't belong to you. That is emotional discipline. That is control. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about freedom. It's about refusing to let people who hurt you continue to live rent-free in your mind. It's about protecting your energy like it's gold, because it is. You only have so much of it, and every ounce you give to resentment is an ounce you take from your purpose, from your future, from your peace. So let it go. Not by pretending it didn't happen, but by deciding that it no longer deserves your attention. Let go. Not because they earned it, but because you deserve to move forward. Because the man who drops the weight of bitterness begins to rise. He sleeps better, thinks clearer, leads stronger, and lives free. You can be that man. But first, you must be willing to put the weight down. Now you understand. Anger is not your nature. It is your training. And just as it was learned, it can be unlearned. You are not a prisoner of reaction. You are not bound to resentment, to outbursts, or to regret. What the Stoics revealed, what men like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus lived, is that calm is not given. It is earned. Self-control is not weakness. It is discipline, and silence, when chosen with intention, is not surrender. It is power. This journey is not about suppressing who you are. It's about refining it, sharpening it, returning to the core of who you were always meant to be. A man who does not flinch in chaos. A man who does not waste energy on noise. A man who leads with inner strength, not outer volume. This is how you become untouchable, not by avoiding the fire, but by standing in it without letting it consume you. So carry this with you. Train your breath. Master your pause. Guard your peace. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary, because the man who owns himself owns his life. And that kind of strength, it does not fade. It only grows.